G'day MotoHikers, Adam here again. Just having a bit of a shed day, getting ready to go for a ride, 3-day ride this weekend. And after the last ride with Brett, I thought it might be handy this trip, because we're going to be camping the whole way. I thought it might be handy to be able to charge GoPro batteries off the bike while I'm riding. So, got a little bit of a project underway to get USB power into the back top box of the bike. So let's have a little look at how I'm doing that. So what we've got here is, forget that lead for a moment. On the DR650 there's actually an auxiliary lead, this one here, which is not connected to anything. It's got an orange wire and a black wire with a white stripe. Now the orange is positive and the black with the white stripe is negative, I think. And what we're going to do is tap into that, because that one's keyed to the ignition. So when I turn the key on, power goes to there. Now there's actually another one of those wires in behind here as well. Exactly the same. In the bundle of wires in the harness cover, there's another one of these little plugs, the same as that. And they're both keyed to the ignition, so when you turn the key on they receive power, but when you turn the key off the power shuts off. So accessory line. Now I was going to cut those. Well, originally what I thought was I'd go hunting at the Auto Eleckies for a plug the same as that, and then I thought, well, to do that I've got to take the bike up, I've got to get the seat off, I've got to show them, waste their time, etc, etc. And so I thought I'll just cut them and join straight onto them. But then I was tinkering about. Just go over here into the shed into the tools for a moment. I went digging through all my parts on the shelf here and found one of those old XR600 sort of aftermarket blinkers from Ballard's, which are actually the blinkers I've got fitted to the other DR. These little rubber mounted guys here, and they actually come with a plug on them. And guess what? It's exactly the same plug as that one. So we've plugged into that, run some double insulated wire, so it's the sort of stuff from the auto electricians that's got a positive and a negative line. And what I've done is run that along the harness, up through under the rack, drilled a sort of a tight fit hole through the back of the case and into here, which is where I'm up to right now. Now I've just soldered my USB adapter in line. Now this little USB adapter's got 3 outputs. It's got 2 1 amps and a 2.4, and I've actually got exactly this one mounted in my vehicle for work, which I charge a lot of stuff on while I'm driving, and I've had it in there for about 3 years and it's never failed. So I just went and bought the same one, super cheap auto. It does have a brand on it, AER Pro, whatever that means. Might be able to see that. Came in a white box. It's super cheap, and the idea is I'm going to use some of the more industrial velcro that onto here. And then I'll have 3 USB ports, and I'll use the 2.4 one to charge the GoPro batteries in their holder, this little guy here. So that takes 2 batteries, like so. So while I'm riding, that can be plugged in, charging batteries, or anything else that I need to charge, the phone, anything like that. So just before I finished it, I thought I'd just do a very quick video to show you what I was doing. I've got some heat shrink there ready to shrink up on those solders, and then I've got another piece of heat shrink further down the line to go over the whole thing. And now I've left myself a bit of slack, because my plan is that when I get back from this trip, I'll actually put a nice solid waterproof connector in here, so that if I need to take this box off at some point, I can just unplug it and take it off. But that'll be a trip for when I get back, and I can get into the auto electricians and sort of dig around and find a suitable sealed plug that's going to do the job. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy sort of job. But as I say, there's another one of those plugs actually up the front, which I did cut the plug off and hardwired USB to the front of the bike up here, so that I've got somewhere to plug the GPS into and run the GPS up here on the dash while I'm riding. I don't like to pull too much power out, but I think, you know, this system can handle 2 USB ports without any dramas. And ultimately I'll probably change the headlight over to an LED just to drop the wattage down so that there's a bit of extra power. So anyway, I'll just show you how that plugs in, demonstrate that it is actually the right size. So you've even got the little barb and everything on it. So it clicks in there, got that covered up. So we go around the back here. I've just got my iPad plugged in to that USB port so that when I turn the ignition on I can check that I actually get power and it charges. And there we go, iPad lights up and it says it's charged or charging. So I think that'll work just fine, and it'll all be inside this case where it's relatively waterproof and safe. Now the other thing that's going to happen in here is that this USB power bank, that's a 10,000 milliamp power bank, I'm going to have that velcroed in here as well so that it can be charging. Now with some of these power banks you can actually charge them and draw from them at the same time, and you have to do a bit of experimenting to see which one's which. But with that mounted in here, I'll be able to charge that and draw from it at the same time into the GoPro batteries or anything else that I'm charging. So effectively what that does is give you a very, very small, lightweight dual battery system on your bike. So you're charging a battery while ever you're riding, and then when you turn the ignition off you continue to draw just from that battery to your devices. So just thought people might find that a little bit interesting. Alright, so I think I've just about got it all done. I'll give you a bit of a look. So what we've got is Pelican case. It is actually a genuine Pelican case, 1550 this one. I've been using this case for many years on various different bikes. And then inside we've got, this is actually a low pro camera bag which is made for this case. Okay, I don't think you can actually buy them anymore, but there's probably something else to replace it. But this is usually my kitchen when I'm on a trip, and I've actually had a trip where I pretty much lived out of that bag for 2 weeks. There's a kitchen on the back. It was a long time ago. So power is coming off that plug up through a double insulated cable into the back here. I've mounted the USB port on the back, and I've marked the highest output port with a bit of red tape so that I know which is the most powerful one. But I can use the other two at the same time, but if I use one of them it'll be at 2 amps, and if I use both they'll be at 1 amp each, whereas this one is always at 2 amps. So that runs into here. Now the ignition's off at the moment, and what you can see there in theory is that the GoPro batteries, one's charged and the other one is charging, but they're both on charge running directly from this power pack. But the power pack isn't connected to power at the moment, so if I just press the little light up button, we can see the blue lights here come on, indicating that that power pack's basically fully charged and it's charging these 2 batteries. Now what's interesting is if I turn the ignition on, watch what happens with that power pack. That power pack's now charging. Okay, we've got 3 solid lights and 1 flashing, so it's just topping up the charge. The GoPro batteries are charging, so if I was riding down the road everything would be on charge at the moment. Turn the ignition off, come to a stop, the battery pack stops charging, but the GoPro batteries are still on charge. So all I'm doing is depleting this battery. So it's operating like a dual battery system, but only at USB power. Obviously you can't start the bike off it if the other battery's flat, but this keeps it all isolated from the main battery on the bike. Now just while I've been packing, it got me thinking of all the other things I own that are USB powered that I could take on a trip. and it's pretty much convinced me that anything I buy from this point forward will have to be USB powered, because this will just be so convenient. So this is one of those super bright LED torches. That's the spare battery, and that's the charger. Guess what? USB powered. So I can actually charge that LiPo battery while I'm riding. I think you can get head torches that operate in a similar way. My GPS is a Ep002, 20, sorry. Again, USB powered. Now usually that's mounted on my dash and running off USB, but if I wanted to keep it running, I can plug it into there. The obvious one, mobile phone, Apple iPhone, plugs into the USB, so I can charge that in the back of the bike while I ride. But the big one, which we find on trips, is we've got 5 of us that use these. This is the FOD Sport FX8 bike-to-bike Bluetooth communicator. Now these guys run all day on a charge. I think you get a bit more than a day out of them. We've certainly had some pretty long days on the bike without these going flat. And they're USB charging as well. Now what this means is that at night when I pull up, I can plug this into that battery pack, charge it again, ready to go the next day, without having to look for a power point or without having to leave it plugged into the bike's battery, where it's drawing down on the bike, which has always made me a little bit nervous. So there's just a few of the things. But when you think about it, if you look at items like the Garmin Ep002 device, what's it called? Can't remember what it's called. But those sort of tracker type devices. There's a new one, the Zulio, which is pairs to your phone and allows you to text using the satellite system, which is probably what I'll look at getting in the near future. Satellite phone, all USB chargeable. So I think this is actually going to be one of the best little additions to the DR that I've done, as long as I make sure that everything going forward. So I'll have to look to replace my head torch with a USB rechargeable one, and probably you know, a radio or a small Bluetooth speaker that's USB chargeable as well for a bit of music. But yeah, anyway, that's that little modification. Effectively dual batteries for DR650. Hope you learned something. I did.